If we're not confident enough, that's mental health, right? I could have some hair and have some patches. However the hair comes, Jada, have it.
Are you in menopause?
I'm in menopause.
It's like my dream to be done. I swear to God, I just
Don't speak too soon.
I'm like, let's go.
21, I had a nervous breakdown. Well, if I just do this, it'll make life good. Oh, well, if I just do this, I've reached my rock bottom.
Women are struggling with things they think are mental health related. And it's
Yes.
actually a hormone imbalance. Yeah.
Suicidal thoughts had a lot to do with my diet. The heaviness of the world lifted. Yeah, okay, she's 23, Jaden's 25, Trey's 31.
I'm like, I just have to launch them. Now I have a 17-year-old. I'm like, no.
Oh, let me tell you something.
It's gonna go on forever.
I think it goes forever. Plant medicine.
What was the first one that you tried?
Ayahuasca.
I've done ayahuasca once.
I came up across self-hatred, disguising itself as...
I guess, how are you? How's
I'm
life?
great.
Good.
I'm really
Now,
good.
are you still in the midst of the book tour?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we're not really torn, but still
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
it, just out and about.
Yeah. That is it's like such a slog that you can't understand until you've been inside of it. Because I feel like writing books about your life, that already is an unpacking.
Yeah.
And then you have to over and over and over it. You're like, just read the book. That's what it's about.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah.
But it was a really healing process.
Good.
Honestly, I think everybody should write their story in some form of fashion.
Yeah.
It was really, I had no idea of what would be revealed to me, and just seeing generational things and my mother healing from the book. I was talking about it, and
that's
you know
cool.
what I mean? So it was really beautiful.
Well, I think sometimes, at least in my writing, it wasn't until I had to try and write it that I could really see it.
Yeah.
Or maybe see it through the lens of a grown woman and not through the lens of the little girl who lived it.
Yeah.
And then in some instances for me, realize like, oh, that was really fucked up. Like that, I shouldn't have lived through that. I shouldn't have had to carry that burden. Were there parts that felt like that to you?
It wasn't that so much that I shouldn't have carried it, but just that, oh my goodness, I carried a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not really, because until writing is like you can sit on the rim of the bowl of your life. And when it's written on paper, it's very different than when it's in your head.
Yeah.
So I did, once I saw it on paper, it was just like, whoa. So then I could just be with it in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also feel like, I don't know if you do this, but I allow myself to write my truth in the first draft.
Yeah.
Like exactly what I felt like the truth was. And then every edit, I'm like, all right,
Okay,
we'll
right,
pull it back a little bit.
exactly.
That's a little too harsh.
No, I'm with
we'll
you
pull
on
it
that.
back. Yeah.
I think I actually think that's really important. To just blah on the page. And then you get to look at it and say, oh, okay, well, let's see how we can frame this in a way that's, and especially I really wanted, of course, it's my story and, my particular circumstances are unique to my experience, but I really wanted the book to feel like it was a journey that everyone could relate to, that it was it's a universal journey that, people could read and go, oh man, I've been there. Oh yeah, I went through that. And not the specific occurrence or event, but just how I might have been affected by it, So I think that all of our journeys really are universal in a lot of ways.
As you come to the other side of, or are in the midst of this tour and talking about this thing, are there practices or things that you do to ground yourself, to sort of like release that energy after you've talked about a hard thing? Like, what are some of the things? I just feel like you have all the tips and tricks. I'm like, tell me everything that you do. We all want to know.
Yeah, I mean, it every day it's something different. It just depends on what's being called for. Sometimes it takes for me to sit in a warm bath and with some salt and meditate, or just think. Sometimes I put on, a good, Thomas Merton, on YouTube, or I'm listening to Be My Children, or something, of encouragement. because not everybody's good at meditating. I love to meditate, but I hate to be like, oh, I meditate. But you know, because it's like, girl, you know.
Yes, you're right.
You know, but so I always try to offer like a warm bath and listening to, you know, an audiobook or, you know, like someone I really admire as far as their teachings are concerned, which is like a Pema Chodron or Thich Nhat Hanh or Radhanath Swami or Ananda Mai, you know, to just bring me back to a center within myself that I'm tethered to. So I can, you know, because when we go out into the world, you know, it's like, so whether we're at work or we just came from the PTA meeting at the school, having to deal with so many personalities and energies, and we can, it can pull on us. And so really getting back to our center, whatever that takes, whatever that method is for someone. And for me, you know, it's imperative. And sometimes I do it several times a day, right? Sometimes, you know, just take it, even if it's just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You
to
know,
ground,
absolutely. To ground, you know, what is that piece of music? What is that picture that you have on your phone? You know, what is that plant? What is that, you know, the cover of a book or, it's, you know, a quote out of a book, something that can just bring you back to your center of where you want to be, because dealing with the world will definitely pull us off our center.
Absolutely. Yeah. I also feel like based on which week I am in my cycle, I need different forms. Like sometimes I have to move. I need to like actually get this energy out of my body. And sometimes the idea of a bath really resonates with me, or I'm like a lizard. Like I love heat. So I love sitting on like a heating pad or like heated seats. Like it's summertime. I'm like, leave me alone. It really helps me to like come back down into myself.
I feel you on that. I'm a lizard too.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I love heat. Heat is always good for me.
So I ask this question to basically every woman who sits with me, and some people are not happy to talk about it. So if you're not, but how do you feel about a conversation about hormones?
Yeah,
okay,
let's go.
So I am obsessed with women's health and wellness. And so every woman I sit with, I'm like, tell me, is that part of your journey? Did you grow up knowing about your cycle and how to flow with it and how to work with it? Or is that something you've learned over time?
I had to learn.
Yeah, me too.
I had to learn. And I remember, you know, with my daughter, I really wanted to educate her differently around it, which I'm hoping I did.
Yeah,
Only she could speak on that, you know what I mean, of whether I did or not successfully. But I really, you know, nobody talked to me about, you know, that particular aspect.
Yeah.
You know, even coming into, you know, the hormonal stage that I'm at now, you know, menopause. It's like,
are you in menopause?
I'm in menopause.
It's like my dream to be done. I swear to God, I just
don't speak too soon.
I'm like, let's go. I'm done. I don't need it anymore. Because I'm in perimenopause, and I feel like my hormones swing like just so wildly that I'm like, please.
Yeah. I so feel you on that. But and look, you know, I'm dealing with extreme like private summers. You know what I mean? I mean, they are so like, it's wild. I've been, you know, my emotions haven't been as bad. I feel pretty even toned, but pre-menopause, I feel like I was a nut.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there, like, have you changed your diet, any nutrition, any advice you could give on that?
So there's this, I wish I knew there's this Chinese herb that I'm taking right now in a tea. It's very bitter.
Ooh, okay.
It's very bitter. I'll send you a picture of it. Because I forget the name of it. It's like Shaozi something, right? And so it has really helped with my private summers.
Good.
So you know how they always say, you know, they have these menopausal teas. No, this is if it's not bitter, it's not gonna work. not for what's happening in my body right now. It's like it needs something aggressive. But it's and then a tea to also help with the anxiety that comes with it. Which, because I've never really felt.
Really? That's something that came on with menopause?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never felt that before. So.
This is why I love this conversation, because I think so many women are struggling with things they think are mental health related, and it's actually a hormone imbalance. Yeah. And so if it's just, that's like everyone who sits with me, I'm like, can we talk about this? Because if we tell our stories, I'm hoping more people will, if they have the ability, speak to a nutritionist or do some research, because those things have helped me so much.
I could not agree with you more. And, you know, a lot of my mental health difficulty that I was having before, that I talk about in the book, you know, suicidal thoughts, all of this stuff, had a lot to do with my diet. Believe it or not.
Okay, how so?
So there were certain foods that I was eating, gluten for one.
Gluten kills me.
Listen, I had no idea. Soon as I stopped eating gluten, the heaviness of the world, this doom and gloom, lifted, right?
I believe it.
And then there were other foods that I was eating that was compacting the gluten effect. Because I would eat the same thing every day, and I was eating like, you know, tuna, salmon, oatmeal, eggs, like things that you would consider as healthy.
Yeah.
Well, I was allergic.
So you had sensitivity.
I had sensitivity and allergies, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling. My gut is messed up. I don't have energy, right? And I'm depressed.
Yes. Well, the other thing too, if before I ever had like panels done, so I understood what I was sensitive to, is I would feel like my body does not accurately show how I live my life. Like I was so bloated, and I would look like I was 4 months pregnant, and I was like, I don't understand. And then I would sort of beat myself up, or like, why, what is going on? And it's literally that fast.
Yeah.
When you figure out your nutrition, and it's not a diet, it's about eating things that are really nourishing to your body, not what other people tell you is healthy. This is so stupid. Like my number one food sensitivity, not allergy, but sensitivity is kale. And I eat kale all the time. I love it. And it destroys, but I didn't know. I was like, it's fiber, you know? I had no idea. And like simple things like that really do make a difference.
It does. It makes all the difference in the world. And I'm so glad you're talking about, like, we really have to get in touch with ourselves, to listen to our bodies. And of course, you know, there are all these different diets and there's all these different, you know, ways to be healthy. But at the end of the day, what is your body desiring to have and desiring not to have?
Yep.
You know, and it's going to be different, what I need versus what you need, you know. And so we can talk about it. And at the end of the day as well, we just have to really get in tune with ourselves. Like, I think as women, really learning how to listen to ourselves. You know, and listen to the body and what's the communication our specific body has.
Yeah.
You know, and so that took me a while to figure out as well, because I'm thinking, oh, all women's bodies are the same. We all do the same thing. It's like, nope.
Is intuition something you grew up knowing about, or something you've learned over time?
I've learned that over time too.
And what was that journey like for you?
I mean, that's been quite a journey, because we're constantly bombarded with information and ideas that disconnect us from our intuition.
Absolutely.
You know? And so there just came a point in my life where I really desired to be connected to myself in a different way. Right? And that was spiritually, right? To just get more quiet and not think that I had to do so much in the outside world to look a certain way, be seen a certain way. All of these things that were keeping me, that were actually going against my intuitive nature.
Okay, so this is interesting. I'm having this like click in my mind that given your career, you're working with stylists or makeup, or you're doing all of these things, and I'm totally projecting here, but potentially when you were younger, I'm thinking of myself, I felt less in control of how I looked, or because I was just like, I don't know. So and then I had several years where I almost, if I look at pictures now, it's really uncomfortable because I feel like other people's doll. it's so far from me.
Yeah.
And maybe it was pretty, but it was so far from me that that's a really good point for women to get, that there is this connection between how we feel like we should be presented to the world and being our authentic self. That doesn't mean makeup. That doesn't mean hair. I mean, you can look however you want, but if you get disconnected from the way you see yourself, that's so good.
Yeah, because that, you know, when we think that we have to show up a certain way, right? And just like you said, whatever that is, you know, you could be full face.
Yeah.
And that's you.
That's you. Exactly.
And so that's in the pocket of where you need to be, you know. But if we're not confident enough, and it starts there, health, you know, and that's mental health, right? And so it's like that, like I have to be okay with, I can be bald, I could have some hair and have some patches. I could have hair and be blonde. Like, however the hair comes, Jada, have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just being able to embrace ourselves as we are. Right? And not like, oh, I better do this diet because the new body form is this. You know, I remember spending so much time gaining weight. I know most people don't have to worry about that. Most people are like, bitch, I wish that was my problem. You know, don't sit up here and complain about gaining weight, right? Because most people are worried about losing weight, right? But for me, I was really, I felt like I needed to be a certain size to be attractive. So I was in the gym. I was a gym rat. I was in the gym 3 times a day, and I'm eating, you know.
3 times a day?
3 times a day.
Oh, man. Your cortisol levels must have been bonkers.
Crazy.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Right? And then I got to make sure I eat this amount of food. So I'm stuffing myself. It wasn't in alignment with what my natural frame is.
Yes.
I'm a small girl, period.
Yeah.
I only need to eat once or twice a day.
Yeah. And also, in that scenario, it's like every waking moment is in service to this image.
This image.
Yeah.
Right? And so that pulls me away from that intuitive self, right? It's pulling me away from who I truly am, my authentic person. Yeah. And so it took me, I had a lot of identity that had to be dismantled, right?
And did you realize that like all at once, or it was like a slow unraveling?
That was a slow unraveling. Listen, let me tell you, that's still unraveling, you know, because it's just one identity after another, you know, and then we just keep refining the identity. It keeps raising, you know what I mean? But it's still an identity, right? And so once we recognize that, oh, it's all okay, and we're more aware of it, you know. But it took, man, that was a hell of a thing. And really being able to let go of the millions of identities that I felt like I needed to hold on to be.
Yeah. And in your case, it's not just your own identities. You now have, I can't even imagine how much public perception of who you are. And like everyone has a different idea of how you're supposed to show up. And I'm sure too, again, with your career, it's so freaking easy to fall into the trap of like, well, if you just do this one thing, then, you know, because you know how to play that game. So you're like, well, I can keep, you know, for me, like too much makeup and all that. I can keep doing that. It's not that bad. But it really is this like, I feel like so often media and it's sort of like will slowly erode and take away the things that actually made you special.
Exactly.
Like it'll keep just, and then all of a sudden you look back, you're like, who
am I? Yes. And that's where I got to.
Yes, I get that.
I literally woke up one day and was just like, I'm lost. I was just lost. I had no idea. I had lost me. Right? And so then that journey that started, and it you know, it's a hell walk.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a fucking hell walk.
Yeah.
I wish I could say it wasn't. I wish I could say, oh, this is this magic pill, or there's this one book, or there's this one diet. Nope. It continues, and it's never like, you never arrive.
You really don't.
You don't, right? And you start to enjoy the journey. And I used to hate hate that when I would hear that. It's like, it's fun, enjoy the journey. It's like, fuck that.
I want to be there.
I want to be there. I want to feel better,
Yeah.
you know?
I don't want to keep repeating the same stuff.
cycle.
Oh, so annoying.
Once I figured out how to break cycles within myself and start to realize, wow, you break one cycle and you're like, I've arrived. And then, you know, you get ego busted on like, oh, nah, chick, you didn't arrive.
It's still here.
You're still, you know what I mean? You've come to another place, but it's not the landing point. You don't get to stop.
Yeah.
You don't get to stop.
Do you have an example of that in your life where you're like, dang, I thought I was done with this and I just did it again?
I think it really happened when I started doing plant medicine. And, you know, you have like these big, enormous, like, you know, aha moments.
Yeah.
You know, like, I got it.
Yeah.
I got life.
Yes.
It's
And
like,
then-
jackaboo. Nope, you're still stuck in the codependent cycle of yours, your codependency, and thinking you have to save others.
Yes.
And, you know, you're still there.
You think if you like see it, like you finally realize it's there, you're like, that's it.
I got it. Now I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. Were you, how long ago was that you started doing plant medicine?
That was 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the first, and again, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, so
No,
you
you
could,
could,
what was the first one that you tried?
Ayahuasca.
Okay. So I've
40
done
years
ayahuasca once.
Okay.
And
one night?
Yes. Okay.
You did
I had
one?
the worst experience ever.
Oh, I can imagine.
I gotta try again. It was so stupid. I'm like embarrassed of how stupid it was. But I went, someone said, this is your dream. I was just like, I'm doing anything by myself. And all around me were these guys who I realized later, I'm like, oh, you wanted to process your trauma. You came here to purge. And it was like the seventh circle of hell. I was like literally in a ball, everyone around me screaming. It was so bad.
Wow.
There were like 30 people in the room. I found out later you definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like country mouse trying to have an experience. But it still was, even in that, I did work through a lot of really beautiful stuff. Because that first night someone said, Aya loves it if you show back up for her. And I remember that when I was in a ball, like 4 hours in, I remembered him saying that. And so I sat back up and I was like, okay, I'm here with you. But I did escape at dawn and I got an Uber back to the city. But I tried.
Yeah.
So when you did it for the first time, I imagine it was very different.
Well, I definitely had my horror night on the third night.
The third night, okay.
Yeah, which was supposed to be my last night.
Okay.
And that's when I came up across like the self-hatred, which was disguising itself as me needing to not live anymore. Yeah. And so, but after that night, I came back the fourth night and was able to really work through that shadow because it was coming up because it's the thing that had to be released. But it can be horrifying when we have to look at those aspects of ourselves. You know, it was I was like, this is me? It was really like to see energetically what I had been holding against myself. It was deep, right? And but after that night, after my fourth night, it got released.
Oh, that's
It got
cool.
released. So I never had a suicidal thought again after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you had been conscious of them before, that suicidal ideology?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But did anyone know? Just you?
Just me. I think I might have had one or two people that knew I was in trouble. You know what I mean? And then my mother, you know, at 21, I had what I consider like a nervous breakdown. And so that's when it first came.
Interesting.
Yeah, came at 21. And then I kept, well, if I just do this, it'll make life good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if I just do this. Oh, well, if I get this movie and I get this, I'll do, you know. And so it just kept being that until I reached my rock bottom. Got to 40 and I was just like, everything I've tried hasn't worked. So something must be wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy to be here because I can't get it right. Right? And so a good friend of mine, had gone to Peru and had, done Aya, and when he came back, I was like, "You're different. I want to know, what did you do?" And so that's how I found it, and I'm really grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, but through my journeys with that medicine, because I continued, right, with that medicine, thinking you've arrived. And
every time you go again, it's like, hello.
You come back into your life, you're like, girl,
yes,
you have not. This is showing you the medicine it can only show you what you need to work on.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
yeah. And so, it showed me a lot. And so that's when I started to like realize all of the identities that I had to start breaking down and breaking down and breaking down and breaking down in order to get to who I truly am. And it was thick. It's layered. I'm still doing it.
Forever. Yeah, we're going to be doing this forever. Yeah.
Still doing it.
Well, you said something too that made me think, for mamas especially who are listening to this, it's worth saying that I feel like a lot of women are able to go on this journey when their kids get older.
I would agree.
When they're little, you're like so in it,
Yep.
you can't. So I think it would probably, if we got a bunch of moms in one room, we
Yep.
probably would all have similar stories that we really started to do that inner work.
Absolutely.
When the kids could wipe their own butts. Like when we
Absolutely.
were not doing diapers and all of that. So I say that just in case someone's listening to this and they're like, find themselves kind of at this crisis point of like, who am I? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
How did this become my life? I think that's really normal.
It's really normal because I remember being there, after, I guess my kids were like, let's see, 4 and 5. I was just like, what have I, just like this completely domesticated, this wild cat that has been completely domesticated. And there was no remnants of my life that reminded me of myself. You know what I mean? It was
do.
like, and I think a lot of us as women, because we're told, hey, when it comes to kids and your family, you're at the back of the bus.
Yep.
Right? So the one thing I would say is that if there are ways that we can have the courage to at least find ways to make time for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
To don't buy into the fact that you don't matter because you are a mother or, a wife or you're a partner or whatever, right? But as a mother, if we do not find ways to care for ourselves, our children will know, right?
And you're also teaching that pattern.
Exactly. Yeah. And I never forget my daughter, she's such an old soul, but she would always be like, "Mommy, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you happy?" Right? And that really, I was like, I got to get my shit together. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I wanted my child to, specifically my daughter, because we're their first representatives of, being.
This is what a woman is.
Of what a woman is. Yeah. And so she really encouraged me in that way to find ways of living a more authentic life for myself. And I just took them with me.
Really?
Now, let me tell you, I think we as women, we got to be okay with our kids being on our schedule instead of us being on theirs.
Yep.
Okay? Mm-hmm. Soccer games and, doing this and doing that and doing all this. Cool, right? But there's moments where our kids need to be on our hips doing what we love.
Yes.
And they need to be able to experience and see us in our bag, right? Because that's when they're like, oh, what? Like, yo, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I realized. And so, when I got to really do that with my kids as well, take if you have the opportunity to, whatever it is you love to do, you know what I mean? It's like, have your kids come with you sometimes,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Have them experience you in your bag,
What were some of the things that you leaned into when you were trying to get back to self? Because I really identify with this idea.
Yeah.
I have 4 kids.
Yeah.
And I'm no lie, I do sometimes look around. My youngest is about to be 7. And I look around and I'm like, and I love them, put the asterisk,
Yes,
like obviously they're my
we
life.
do, yes.
But sometimes I'm like, how is this my life? I'm so tired of making chicken. Like
Yes.
I just, oh my, what? Like remember when you could just like go to a coffee shop and like journal by yourself at night? Like,
Yeah.
so what are some of the things that you did that started to make you feel like you again, or how did you even figure that out?
Yeah, one of the things I started doing was painting.
That's cool.
Yeah, I started painting.
Was that something before that for you, or you were like, this is a new hobby?
That was a new hobby.
Okay, cool.
And then I'd bring the kids in the art studio,
Rad.
right? Me and Willow in the art studio, and with Jaden. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have this beautiful, this huge. It looks like this huge painting in my house that Jaden did that I just love. You know, because he kept painting too. But yeah, and so painting was one of them. And, you know, they could come or not, right? And so sometimes I needed to be by myself, but it was also something I could share with them, right? And then there was just certain, like, I love religion. Like, I don't know why.
Any specific religion or just studying them all?
I grew up like that.
Yeah, that's
going
cool.
to the ethical society. So I would pick, I love study time. I know, I'm a nerd.
I'm a nerd too.
I'm a nerd.
I don't study religion, but I get this. I'm like, you should see highlighted notes. Like, ooh,
Just,
okay.
yeah. And I
love learning.
Obsessed.
Yeah, I get it.
It brings me joy. Yes. Right? And so my study time.
You're like, this is what we're doing. If
Right.
you want in, this is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. So
How-
what would you like to study? Because
Yeah.
mommy's studying this.
Okay.
What are you studying? What are you studying? We're having study time.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do you, this is just a dorky question for me. If you're, let's say, reading a book because you want to learn on a new subject, how are you absorbing that? Are you taking notes?
Yeah.
Are you rereading? Like, how do you
So
take it
I
in?
take notes.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. And then in the end, I highlight. Right. But I have a notebook of highlighted information that I can go back to and just read over and over and over again.
Nice.
You know? And I'll travel with it. So even during the day, if I need a little pick-me-up, I'm like, now what was that thing that I just read? And, you know, unconditional, you know, ways to love unconditionally. Here it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me remember that. You know what I mean? And
So smart.
Yeah.
Is it organized by section, the book?
You know what? My artistic mind is kind of random. I kind of like random.
That's cool. Like, what am I going to come across
Yeah,
today?
what am I going to come
that's rad.
across?
I
You
get that.
know? And so that's kind of my artsy mind sometimes has a problem with structure. Sometimes I can be really structured and sometimes I'm really not.
Yeah, you want it to be free.
I just want it to be free.
Cool.
Yeah. And so, but I also loved like shower time. I love bath time.
Yeah, just self-care.
Just
and-
self-care, putting on my masks, you know, whatever, you know, scalp treatments, my feet.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
like taking time to like, I will spend hours.
Yes.
Okay. And that was another thing that I would do with my daughter. We'd call it goddess bath time.
Ooh, nice. I
Right?
love a theme. Okay, I love a theme.
Yeah.
I love it.
I was like, we're going to have goddess bath time. And she just loved it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm doing self-care.
That's
I'm
really
teaching her to do self-care. I'm enjoying myself, and now I'm in my bag.
That's really, I love that actually for me because my daughter comes in often. I'm a skincare nerd and I put on like 87 layers and she'll come in and be like, what's that? What's that? And so I'll put them on her too. But the idea of like running her a bath and in my bathtub, I would get a bathtub.
Yes.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, and
so
I
it
would
makes
like
it more special.
Yeah, you put flowers, scents. I mean, we made it a
would love that.
ritual.
Yeah, that's
You know what I
cool.
mean? And so, yeah, and even as adults, she's like, Ma, I need a goddess bath time. I'm like, okay. we don't get in the bath together, but, you know, we'll like do our feet and do,
Right.
you know, but, you know, that's been a beautiful ritual that continues. in our relationship to this day.
There are studies, this is a few years ago that I remember reading about it, that children today don't have rituals the way they would have when we were, going back generations,
Yes.
and how important it is to establish family rituals.
Absolutely.
Especially like coming of age rituals,
Yep.
and sort of like, I know in certain, there might be a quinceañera or
Yes.
sweet 16 or whatever, but the idea of teaching rituals to our kids, especially something around self-care, I don't think that's talked about enough, because a lot of us are struggling to actually remember to do that for ourselves.
Absolutely.
So how on earth are we going to teach them if we're not doing it for us? That's a really good piece of advice.
Absolutely. And I think that ritualizing things is really important.
Absolutely.
And I'm now kind of figuring that out as well. I mean, I was able to figure it out with Willow in a lot of different ways. And I didn't really look at it as ritualizing, but even when she became a woman at 15 and her moon came, it was like,
let's acknowledge this.
It's like, we're going to acknowledge this. We're going to celebrate this. And we did a whole ritual around it, as her coming into.
That's cool.
Her, you know what I mean? And so, just to identify it as this new station in life, instead of just saying, oh, okay, well, now your body, you can do this.
Yeah.
And you can have kids. And it's like, no. Now you're becoming a woman.
Yeah.
And this is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is what it means. And this is the new responsibilities that come with that. And look at the sheets you get to sleep on.
Yeah.
And look at the things you get to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like this whole beauty instead of like, oh my God.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for people listening to this, the ritual just has to make sense to you and your family.
That's right.
Like, it's like anything
Yep.
could be, there's this really popular thing on social media to like romanticize your life.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think that a spiritual practice or a ritual often looks like that. It looks like, how can I appreciate this moment for what it is? How can I make it a bit more special? Because maybe people are hearing this for the first time and like, I don't really know what that would look like for our family. I think it's just like, we do a full moon dinner every month.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And it's literally just a delicious dinner. All of us sit down and we talk about what's the one thing that we want to let go of before we start a new month. And I hope that it just gives my kids from a very early age this practice of asking what they need to let go of. What can we strip away? And, sometimes they're little and it'll be like really silly, but I'm hoping that we just start this habit that sticks.
I'm going to borrow that one.
Yeah, please
That's
do.
That's a good one. I'm borrowing that, the full moon dinner.
Full moon dinner. And we invite people over. We always do a heavier dinner because it's like this grounding thing.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. My teenagers will invite their friends, and the things that these kids, but they're teenagers, are trying to process and work through. I'm like, I was not figuring that out till I was in my 30s. It's just good. I didn't grow up with that kind of environment, but I love this little habit that we have.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love full moons. So that's
me
really
too.
a beautiful way to like share it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's, I think too, especially as women, because we are on this cycle, putting some rhythm to your life. 24 hours it's a male cycle.
Yeah.
Female cycle is a full month, right?
Yeah.
So putting some rhythm into your life and really paying attention to, see, I bring it back to hormones every time. But coming back to like, during this week, I have this energy and this is when I want to be creative and this is when I want, and during this week, I want to be sort of the earth and like in this spot, and allowing that all to be okay.
That's
like
right.
Wherever you are right now is okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important because I think we're constantly being told how not okay we are, in order, we consume, it's like we're such beautiful consumers. So it's like, unfortunately, we get played upon that way, in order to be more okay, you got to buy this, you know what I mean? You know? And so I think, just getting to that place within ourselves of just knowing, you know what, life is a journey. And, I am in the process of creating this masterpiece called my life. And it's one day at a time, step by step. I'm perfect as I am right now.
Amen.
Yeah.
If someone's listening to this right now going back to this woman who maybe is in that spot that you were, that I have been, where you don't really know yourself. You don't kind of know what comes next. Were there people in your life that helped? Like, I'm thinking like going to therapy, having a group of best friends. Like, what were some of the people in your life that facilitated that journey along with you?
So I really looked towards women that had like some kind of characteristic, or there was something about them that I felt like I was lacking, right? And so even if it was somebody that, you know, is not like my friend,
right,
you know, or even somebody that I'm actually friendly with, I would go, hey, you know, I would actually pull people up and ask questions. You know what I mean? I really started to ask women, and even women I didn't know. I would just call and be like, hey, can we go to lunch? Because I want to ask, you know what
Your
I mean?
aura seems great. What's going on?
Can we talk? You know? And most likely, you know, women are so open to that, because I feel like nobody's getting listened to in the way that any of us truly desire. Right. And when you see something in someone that you feel like you want to get to know better, you know, but I did a lot of that. And I'm so grateful that I did. I'm so grateful that those women were willing to speak to me and speak real too. You know, I learned so much from other women. I really do. And so that was one thing that
it's
I
also
did.
the best place to find like a nutritionist, a therapist,
absolutely,
an esthetician, it's the best place, because you meet with someone and they know. I had Molly Sims on the show, and like anything you could need related to beauty, she's like, oh no, you don't want to go to this person, you want to go to this, and I'm like, we all need you in our life.
Exactly, we need a Molly. It's like, it's gone through it all. It's like, okay, nope, that product with that, go see that person. And so, you know. And then just people also who've traveled different kinds of spiritual paths, who've gone through different things in their relationships, you know, who've gone through different things with the relationships with their kids. We're full of so much knowledge that we feel like we can't share because we feel like we're going to be judged. And that was one of the things for me, you know, and maybe you would be judged, right? But how are we helping each other if we're just learning these things and we're doing these fire walks?
Right.
We're walking fire here. We're fire walkers. There's not one woman that I know that's not a fire walker. Let's just be real.
Yep.
Right? But then we want to hold the knowledge that we're learning, right? Because it might not fit the status quo. It might not fit the rhythm of how people think women should exist.
Yes. Or I don't know if you get this. I mean, you probably get everything. But if you try and share something and it feels like you're stepping outside of the lane that people know you for, they're like, why would you say you're not an expert? I'm like, I am not an expert, but this really helped me.
Exactly.
And there might be someone else out there who also was eating kale and didn't know it. And I'm just trying to share that story.
It's like our experiential, you know, wisdom.
Yes.
You know, and it's not to say that it's for you, but it's to say that, hey, this is what happened to me. And even if that's not exactly what's going to happen to you, it might give you the courage to walk through whatever door is waiting for you.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I personally believe that that testimony is medicine. Right?
That's
testimony is medicine.
That's good.
You know, and I think that we as women have to start being okay with sharing more of our testimony and more of what our walk is really about, and not what's safe.
Yeah.
You know? And so, because many of us are walking very different kinds of walks that are getting us to really far places that we're just not comfortable enough to share. Right? And I would just say, you know, share it, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. Have the courage to at least ask.
And to be vulnerable in that. And to get it wrong.
Yeah, it's okay to get it wrong. Oh my gosh.
Of course you're going to get it wrong. And like fail and hopefully learn and do better next time.
You know.
That piece of it is so important too.
It is.
If we have this like the world where everything is just this picture perfect. Of course, I always think this, like, I get to have this life and I have this incredible support, and Jack sets up and we have these people who help us. And I feel like I have days where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Like, this feels too hard. This feels impossible.
Absolutely.
So if I'm having a day like that, that must be happening times a billion all over the place, especially with women.
Yep.
So if we could just share, every single person, not just us, like you have your own perspective, I do, y'all have your own perspective. If we could just hear more of those stories, that this idea, C.S. Lewis said, the most powerful words in the English language are me too. Yeah. When someone says something and you're like, oh, thank God. I'm not the only one. Okay, I'm not the worst mom in the world.
And I'm not crazy.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So freaking important.
And specifically with motherhood, my goodness, I wish we as women could give each other more grace in regards to motherhood as well. There's not one great way to do it.
And it's so hard.
And it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. I don't know why we want to give each other such a hard way to go.
Yeah.
You know, but to all the mothers out there, I would just say you are doing a wonderful job.
Right.
Like, just give yourself that pat on the back. You know what I'm saying? And like, just know, we all know how hard it is. Right? And nobody's meant to get it perfect, right? And the fact that you are trying to be your best is everything.
That's it.
That's it.
The fact that you're worried you're not a good mom
is
proof that you are someone who cares.
Yes.
Because if you were a terrible parent, you wouldn't be paying attention to that.
You wouldn't be paying attention. And I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, you know, we're going to reframe mistakes as initiations.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
They're initiations.
Yeah. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, you're in the club now.
Yeah.
We're all in here together.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's
that's
initiations. Good. And so, you know, the silly idea that, you know, we're supposed to become mothers and know exactly and how that's supposed, you know, and be perfect at it. Or, you know, we become wives and we're supposed to be perfect at it. Or we become girlfriends, or we become lovers, or we become, you know, whatever the hell is, whatever it is. That's just a ridiculous idea for us to put on ourselves and to put on other people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't keep us safe.
Yeah.
In the way in which we think it does. So
you've done it. I mean, you're still very much a parent.
Absolutely.
I definitely tricked myself into believing that when my kids got older, I'm like, I just have to launch them. Now I have a 17-year-old. I'm like, no.
Let me tell you something.
It's going to go on forever.
I think it goes forever.
Yeah.
You know, they start to get like, I think like 25 is when they start to be like, okay, I think I'm getting this. I got this, right? But yeah, as they get older, I think they start to even need us more in different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's not so much the actual physical doing, but the knowledge
and the confidence in them.
Yes.
You know? But yeah, they definitely, I see like 25 is usually like okay, I think I got this. You know?
Until once a year they come back and like, Mom.
Yeah. Once a year it's just kind of like, I don't know if it's like, no, you're good. You got it. Yeah. You know, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I honestly feel like we all got to sit with like the wisdom. You were saying earlier that, you know, having these conversations with other moms and other women. And I feel like we all got to do that with you today.
It's been a pleasure.
Grateful for the time. Thank you for sitting.
Thank you for having
your
me.
Wisdom. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and obviously I was going to say, where are you on social media? But who is not already following you? But just in case, you're on all the social media.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook at Jada Pinkett Smith. I'm on Instagram at Jada Pinkett Smith. And Twitter, I think, or formerly known as Twitter, now X.
Right.
Yeah.
And the book is available everywhere.
So the book Worthy is available at Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, pretty much anywhere that you buy your books. Yeah.
And then did you narrate the audiobook?
I did.
Fabulous. This is a big audiobook community. So
got it. Yeah,
that.
I definitely did the narration of that, of the book. Yeah.
Rad. Well, I hope everyone goes out and grabs it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Until our next conversation.
Yes.
This was awesome.